I'm CEO of TENI, and this is my colleague Andy Martin. We just want to talk to you for 2 minutes. The first thing I want to say is what a privilege it was to lead this parade today with our Grand Marshal Sarah Orr Phillips. She was incredible. For me, when I think about Sarah, I think about the incredible leadership and the incredible volunteerism that she brings to TENI every single day. The hours and hours she gives of her own time. And I look out here and I see a crowd of people and I think, if we can turn this pride, if we can turn this protest into volunteerism, into activism, if you can support groups like TENI and Belong To and Spun Out and LGBT Ireland to do their work, it makes a massive difference. So please think about joining TENI. Please think about supporting those groups. One other thing I want to say before I introduce Andy is that there's legislation going through at the moment on reproductive rights. And we want to see that legislation and all legislation to be trans and non-binary inclusive. We think we're pushing an open door with the Minister, so we're saying, Minister, please don't let us down and please deliver. Andy.
Hey, Pride! So, my name is Andy. I work for the Transgender Equality Network Ireland. And I suppose, as a trans person, it can feel sometimes like you're constantly having to explain yourself. And as a trans person, I faced a fair few barriers in my life. Some of the things that you might take for granted can be overwhelmingly difficult and sometimes impossible for trans people. Bathrooms, passports, job interviews, doctor's visits, clothes shopping, walking down the street. And there are massive barriers to trans people accessing the health care that we need. Ridiculous waiting lists so long that many of us give up hope. No localised services, meaning we need to travel long distances to access the health care that we need. A complete lack of clear communication. And even if you manage to get around all of that, so often medical professionals haven't got a clue of the issues that trans people face and feel like they can't provide us a service. And it's not good enough. It hasn't been good enough for a long, long time. But we're starting to see change. TENI have been chipping away at those barriers to basic health care for trans people from day one. And the HSE have announced 9 new posts for the delivery of healthcare in child, adolescent and adult trans healthcare services. TENI are constantly working to train medical authorities across Ireland, but there's so much more work to be done. We need a model of healthcare that can be accessed locally, that places trans people at the centre of decision making and respects us for who we are. I think many people here can relate to the pain of not being seen or recognised as who you are. In 2015, we welcomed gender recognition, and I can finally be seen as who I am. But non-binary people and young trans people can't. Imagine if every document you used to identify yourself was wrong. That's the reality for non-binary people and young trans people today. Now, TENI have been a part of the Gender Recognition Review Group, who have given their report to the Minister, and we're hopeful for progressive news and progressive change. So I was speaking to my mom yesterday, and I guess when I came out in a kind of a true Irish fashion, we sort of just got on with it. And it's taken a long time for us to be able to have that conversation. And the other day she told me how isolated she felt and how lonely it was and how she didn't know where to go for help. And the thing is, I felt the exact same way. And it wasn't until I kind of came to TENI that I found out about the Gender Identity Family Support Line that we run, or about the trans and parent peer support groups. Because having a space where you can be who you are is crucial. And I think Ireland is slowly becoming that space. We just repealed the 8th Amendment. We listened, we had those tough conversations, and we recognised that everyone should have bodily autonomy. And that legislation must be inclusive of all people who can become pregnant. Minister Simon Harris has assured us that the legislation will be inclusive of trans and non-binary people. And we need to break down barriers, not just in legislation, but in our own community. I said earlier that sometimes it feels like we have to explain ourselves all the time, and to be honest, sometimes it feels like we have to do that in this community. And TENI will continue to campaign for trans rights, but we can't do it alone. We need your help. So speak to the trans people in your life, listen to our voices and amplify them. Speak up, not over. Think about the barriers in your organisation, in your workplace, in your school, and do something to break those barriers down. We don't even have gender-neutral toilets in our own queer spaces. Think about that. LGBT does not mean gay. So if you're using those letters, make sure you're including everyone in our LGBTQI+ family. Because Pride, we are family, and we need to look after everyone in this family. Thank you very much.